Look at this story. Roberto was a street vendor of sandwiches. He was always at the door of the company selling sandwiches, but his wife Manuela worked at this company and was the company's manager. That day Manuela was coming with her lover Paolo. When she saw Roberto there at the door of the company selling sandwiches, they stop halfway through. Paolo says to Manuela, "Isn't this your husband?" Manuela looks and says, "My God, what is he doing here?" Paolo says, "That husband of yours never tires of being ridiculous." Manuela says, "He can't see you and me together, otherwise he'll make a scene." Paolo says, "I don't know what you're still doing with that guy, you know I'm much better than him." She says, "Everything has its right time, but I'm going in before he sees me here." Manuela then take it and enter the company. Paolo is there. Paolo decided to talk to Roberto. He says, "Hi, I want a sandwich." Roberto says, "So take the sandwich and give it to Paolo and say you're going to like it a lot, it's very fresh." Paolo takes the sandwich and says to Roberto, "Aren't you Manuela's husband?" Roberto says, "Yes, I am her husband." Paolo says, "Aren't you ashamed to stay here selling in front of the company where your wife is a manager?" Roberto says, "But why would I be ashamed if I'm working honestly? This work of mine is still an honest job like any other." Paolo says, "If I were you, I would feel ashamed. After all, your wife is the manager of the company." Roberto says, "With regard to my work, I don't have to be ashamed, but I am proud that my wife is a great manager of the company." Paolo says, "Well, if I were you, I would be ashamed. I would look for a real job." Paolo takes and pays for the sandwich. As he gives more money, Roberto says, "I'll get your change." Paolo says, No, I'm sure this money will be more useful to you than it is to me. You can keep the change." Paolo takes it and goes to the company. Roberto stands there selling his sandwiches like he always does. After they tried to humiliate Roberto, Paolo enters and goes to Manuela's office. Manuela says, "Wow, the day has already started full of work today, but where does this Paolo sandwich come from?" Paolo says, "I bought it from your husband to help him. Since he is already in this humiliating situation, I wanted to help him." Manuela says, "What a shame about this situation. This is too humiliating for me. I'm going to make him leave the front of the company that will sell elsewhere." Paolo says, "Worse than if I were you. I would be ashamed of this situation, you being a manager, he humiliating you like that." Manuela says, "Yes, you're right, but I'll talk to him later. Now excuse me because I need to do my work. I have a lot to do today." Paolo takes it and leaves Manuela's room. Later, Manila, very angry, goes to the entrance of the company and says to Roberto, "I can know what you are doing here in front of my work. You know very well that everyone here knows me, and you come here to make me pass this shame. What are they going to say about me? And even worse, what are they going to say about you? Let's say that you don't even have the capacity to support your family." Roberto says, "Calm down, Manuela, this is honest work like any other. You don't need to treat me like that." Form. Manuela says, "Work? That's not even work, Roberto. I'll explain what work is. I do have an honest and dignified job. Look, I dress well, I have a profession. That's what you're doing, not even work. That's a shame, a humiliation." Roberto says, "Baby, I'm just trying to work and earn money so I can pay the bills. This is a job like any other." Manuela says, "If you want to earn money, you should get a real job and not what you're doing. But if you're going to keep doing it, take that sandwich of yours and sell it far away from the company I work for." Roberto takes it from there so as not to make his wife even more angry. Later, as a way of apologizing to Manuela for the embarrassment he caused, Roberto buys a present, and when she gets home he says, "Look, love, I bought you a present." Manuela says, "But what about money? Where to buy a gift? You barely have money to pay the bills." Roberto says, today I sold love very well and I even bought a present for you. Manuela says, you call this work? Roberto says, but love is a job and I can earn good money with it, and that's where I get the money to pay the bills and buy food. I went there and bought you a gift with all the love and affection, and you treat me like this, Manuela. Manuela says, look Roberto, you ruined my day this morning when I saw you in front of the company. I felt ashamed because everyone in the company knows me, and now you come with this little gift. Spare me, Roberto. I don't want to know about this now, excuse me, I have more to do. Roberto stands there very sad with what his wife said to him. The next day, Roberto prepares coffee for Manuela. He says, look, love, I prepared your coffee. Manuela says, I don't want coffee. Roberto is very sad with Manuela's attitude and rejecting the coffee he prepared for her. Manuela says, I go to my job and I earn a lot more than staying here listening to you, Roberto. Roberto says, love, I wanted to see if you have some money to fix me up so I can pay the bill for water and electricity, because I won't have all the money. Manuela says, do you really think I'm going to give you my money to pay the bills? I'm not going to give you my money to pay the bills at home. You're the one who's going to get a decent job. I'm tired of you. You never have enough money for anything because you don't embarrass yourself and go get a job, a decent job. Roberto says, wow, Manuela, you don't need to talk to me like that. You know well that I already went looking for a job, but I didn't get anything, and that's what I have for now. While I'm getting the money out of there, that's what I'm going to do until I get a job fixed. And I've always paid all the house bills by myself, Manuela. It's just this month that I won't be able to pay. It doesn't hurt for you to help me pay a bill for water and electricity. Manuela says, you don't even play your role as a man at home. You're paying the bills. Now excuse me because I need to go to work, because you only stress me out. Another time I'll see about it. Bye. Manuela gets up very angry and goes to work. Roberto, seeing that his wife wouldn't help him pay the bills, gets up and goes to sell his sandwiches. He is in front of the company that Manuela is the manager of, because he has many customers there who like his sandwiches and always buy. Gabriela, owner of the company, is one of Roberto's customers and she loves sandwiches. Gabriela arrives and says, hi Roberto, how are you? It's time for coffee for the company's staff. Everyone is probably hungry. What do you think about going inside the company and offering your sandwiches to the staff? Then when you go in there, people will buy very well. You will sell all these sandwiches. Roberto is excited by Gabriela's proposal and says, are you really going to let me join the company to sell? Gabriela says, of course, come on, let's go. Roberto enters the company to sell sandwiches, but he does not imagine the surprise he will have when he enters his wife Manuela's room. When Roberto opens the door, he finds Manuela and Paolo there in the biggest intimate scene. Roberto, very angry, says, now it's explained why you didn't want me to stay in front of the company selling sandwiches. Paolo, who was there, take it and leave the two talking alone. Manuela says, what are you doing here, Roberto? I already told you that I didn't want to be here in the company. You came here to make me feel even more ashamed. Roberto says, now everything is explained. Now I understand everything, because you don't want me to stay in front of the company. It's so I don't disturb you in your case, right? Manuela says, I don't even know what you're doing here, Roberto. Who gave you permission to enter the company? Take these snacks and get out of here. At that moment, Gabriela listens to the discussion, goes over there and asks, what is going on here? Why is there a scandal here within the company? Roberto says, I'm sorry ma'am Gabriela, but when I came in here I caught Manuela in the most intimate scene with one of the employees. Gabriela says, what does this mean, Manila? Were you doing this inside the company during working hours? Gabriella asks Roberto to leave because she needs to have a meeting with Manuela to resolve this situation. Roberto takes it and leaves. Manuela tries to justify herself to her boss Gabriella. She says, "It's Roberto's lie, ma'am Gabriella." Gabriella says, "I know your husband very well, Manuela, you don't need to lie to me, and I know he wouldn't do something like that because he would lie that you were having an affair with another employee." Gabriella says, "I've been observing your behavior, Manuela, for a few days, and I know very well about your affair with Paolo, but I didn't know that you were getting involved here within the company, and honestly, I haven't liked what I've seen the way I've seen it. You've been taking care of your husband Roberto, his job is honest work like any other. And what happened today for me was the last straw. You're fired, Manuela." Manuela says, "I can't lose this job without time, Gabriella. I have bills to pay, I depend on this job. You even saw my husband's job, it's not fixed at all. I pay the bills at home, I depend on my salary when here." Gabriella says, "You should have thought about that before Manuela got involved with Paolo inside the company. If you want to have an affair, it's your problem, but from the company gate out here, you know very well that I don't admit that type. First of all, this is your work environment and it should be respected as such. Now take your things and leave the company because I don't tolerate this type of behavior here." Manuela then takes her things and leaves. When Manuela arrives home, she finds Roberto sitting on the sofa. She goes to question him. She says, "You see, it's only your fault that I was fired." She looks and sees that he has a bag over there. She then asks, "What are you doing with those bags there? Are you going to leave after the embarrassment you made me go through?" Roberto calmly gets up from the couch and says, "I'm glad you asked, Manuela. These bags aren't mine, they are yours because you're the one leaving here. I don't know if you forgot or are pretending you forgot, but this house is I bought mine by selling my sandwiches, something you always throw in my face, that it's not a job, but that's where I got the money to pay for this house, and thanks to that I have a place to live now. Now you do the following, go live with that guy you were having an affair with." Manuela once again, in order to humiliate Roberto, says, "You know you're right, I'm going to live with him because he's much more of a man than you are. You are proud of your job, Roberto, but this is actually a shame." Manuela is leaving when Roberto says, "You're forgetting your bags." Manuela goes to pick up the bag when Roberto throws it on the floor and says, "Pick it up from the floor." "What city are you watching this story in right now?" Manuela takes her bag and leaves. Manuela goes straight to Paolo's house. She gets there and knocks on the door. Paolo opens the door and with a surprised face says, "What are you doing here in my house?" Manuela says, "If this is the way for you to talk to me, my love. I came here to live with you, now we can be together." Paolo says, "You're crazy, where did you get this story from? You were sent away and so was I because of you. And I don't want to know more about you, you won't find another fool, because I don't want you, and here in my house you won't stay now that your husband left you, you were just an adventure bye." And Paolo closes the door of the house in Manuela's face. Manuela was left on the street, without a husband, without a home and without a job. Roberto continued working selling his sandwiches as he always did. Gabriella then makes a proposal. She goes to Roberto and says, "Roberto has been observing that you are a very hard-working person. You are here every day, rain or shine, selling your sandwiches, and so I decided to make you an offer. I have a vacancy in management and I would really like you to come work with me. What do you say?" Roberto says, "But ma'am Gabriella, I don't have any experience, I only know how to sell my sandwiches, but if you're willing to teach me, be patient, I'll accept." Gabriella says, "I want to give you this opportunity, because I have seen that you are a very hardworking person. Over time you will learn and gain experience, because you deserve this opportunity after everything that has happened to you." I'm sure I won't regret giving you this opportunity because I see you here every day working here to sell your sandwiches. Roberto says, if you insist I'll accept, yes, but I don't want to disappoint you. If it doesn't work, I'll sell my sandwiches again. Because I know that a manager position is very complicated, so you will have to be very patient with me. Gabriella says, I'm sure it's going to work out great, Roberto. You're a hardworking person and you deserve an opportunity. Tomorrow I'll wait for you in the morning to start your training, okay? Roberto thanks for the opportunity. Gabriella leaves. A few months later, Roberto has done very well. He is doing very well at the company. That day Roberto is at home, hears someone knocking on the door. When he goes to open it, he has a big surprise. He opens the door and sees that Manuela is there. He immediately asks her, what are you doing here, Manuela? She says, I came here to ask you for forgiveness for everything I did to you. Our marriage. Roberto says, I don't know how you had the courage to come to my house, Manila, after everything you did to me. Manuela says, I know I made a mistake, but everyone makes mistakes. I believe I deserve a second chance. Now in this situation that I find myself on the street, I realize that all work is honest and dignified. And I came here to ask you please to come back with me, forgive me, and help me so I can get out of this situation. She still looks at Roberto and says, wow, how well you are dressed up, you look beautiful, you look different. Roberto says, I'm sorry, Manuela, but my answer to you today is no. After everything you've done to me, I'm sorry now. Excuse me, I need to go to my work. Closes the door of his house in Manuela's face. What did you think of this story? What would you do?